Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns for day 9 of Around the League in 30 days as we check in on the Cleveland Guardians after their 92-win season in 2024 and their trip to the ALCS. They are back for another season after definitely some off-season transactions, a lot of change in Cleveland. My name is Tyler. My co-hosts for this one, Will and John, and Bobby behind the keys as always. And let's get into this as we again chug along day 9 of our Around the League in 30 days, previewing every team. And let's look at the opening day projected lineup via Fangraphs for the Guardians. As we have Stephen Kwan at the top, the on-base machine. Kyle Manzardo maybe getting an expanded role this year. Jose Ramirez, of course, the always reliable Jose Ramirez. Carlos Santana is back for the millionth time. Lane Thomas maybe takes a step this season. He's already having a nice little start to spring training. Bo Naylor at the bottom without his brother, pretty sad. And then Brian Rocchio as well. Big Christmas on the bench. We'll see if he provides any big impact plays for this team this season. And then looking at the rotation, of course, missing some names, including their ace, Shane Bieber, and John Means coming over from Baltimore. But Tanner Bybee, Ben Lively, Gavin Williams, and Luis Ortiz, the addition to the Guardians this offseason, who I will talk about when we get to that. And Tristan McHenry rounds it out. Jacob Junis comes in. Paul Sewald could be a sneaky good addition. Of course, won't be the closer there with Emmanuel Clase. But you add Paul Sewald, who has the experience to what was an amazing bullpen last year. That is very, very scary. Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith were tremendous last year. So once again, the Guardians are going to have a phenomenal bullpen, but that is the projections for the teams. Of course, I will always disclaimer we are recording this on February 24th, so things can happen, injuries can happen during spring training. So those things are possible to change, but we have to record way in advance for this kind of thing. So you're getting the information at the time you get it, and you're gonna like it. um,
Why did you have to keep yelling at them about
I'm sorry.
this?
I'm sorry. I
Berate
got.
the audience. That's a new take.
Wow, no one
Uh,
has said anything, and you're like,
I know.
we're
I, for
recording this
one,
early.
approve of this. I
Uh,
approve of this. Keep going.
how did the Guardians build off a successful 2024 is really the big question. I think a lot of people thought they were going to take a step back last year, and they said, no, it's not going to happen. We're actually going to go to the ALCS. And I really thought, like, going into that series with the Yankees and really at the start of the postseason, I was like, that's the team to beat in the AL. That is a team, unfortunately, fell before the World Series, but they have a lot of change, right? They get rid of Bo Naylor, Josh Naylor, excuse me. I knew I was gonna say no, yeah, Josh Naylor. I knew I was gonna say that. They get rid of Jimenez at second. They lose some depth in that rotation, but they seemingly replace it. It just seems like that's what they do as the Guardians. So Will, how do you really feel about them going into 2025? Because as I mentioned, the additions and subtractions, but they always seem to find a way.
Not this year.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Wow. Cold blooded.
right off
What's
the
that
bat,
face?
bam.
What's that face?
He, all right, so there's going to be a new crown in the AL Central this year per Will.
I think so.
Well, technically, there was a new crown last year.
The Guardian season was, of course, dominated by an amazing bullpen, and their run in the playoffs is purely because of that. But I mean, they were arguably a team of two halves because in the second half they were 34 and 32. And that's because their offense was not great. But when you have stellar pitching, you can get away with 2-1-3-2 wins. So this year, since they lost Naylor and they replaced it with Santana, I think you can expect a lot more of the second half team, regardless of the pitching depth that they brought in. And so I feel like you gotta trade for a piece, or you gotta pray to God that like Manzardo or someone else can fill the shoes of what Naylor produced offensively.
You look at the lineup, and it's always, of course, Jose Ramirez is always the steady piece there. And now you're starting to get the guys like Kwan, that they're starting to become household names, if you will. It's not so many unknown quantities, but again, it kind of feels like that might be the case again. And that's what happens. Then we doubt the Guardians, and then they come out and they're amazing. We'll see what Manzardo does this year
But
if he
Kwan's
can.
a great example of a guy who was a tale of two halves.
Yeah,
Like his
that's
first
true
half,
as
he
well.
batted like 350. Like
He's been like
remember, he was
400.
like he was running with 400 for a while, got hurt, came back, and then he started to go down. But he was still batting like 350 or something by the All Star break. He batted 206 in the second half. Like that, he went from being amazing to pretty mediocre, and that's mediocre for mediocre. But his number, he finished with numbers that look good, but they're so extreme that it's not something you should be able that you should really do over a season. You need consistency, not those extremes, two sides.
Well, I mean, John, do you think that they have like the guys that can kind of step up again? Because, like I was saying, you have some questions coming into it this year, but they always seem to figure it out.
Here's the issue: is that they really didn't improve offensively. They honestly, I mean, the graphic says the lower third says it all. What did you do? Like,
It doesn't say that. Where does it say
We're
that?
not there yet. It's
we're not there
okay.
yet. Sorry, spoiler. My point is
What
is
the?
that they were consistent. They were steady for a long time last year, and they finally ran into a team that was better than them. I think their key really is to continue to be consistent and to get on base. And a guy like Stephen Kwan, your stars like Jose Ramirez really need to stay consistent and really need to make an impact, especially with the possibility of Shane Bieber coming back in what, July, early August, and from it's Tommy John, right?
Yeah, Tommy John.
Okay, that list is just so big. It's hard to tell who's on there and who's not. Anyway, in terms of getting Shane Bieber back, he can make an impact, especially in the postseason for you.
Let's talk a little bit more about the offense because I do want to pinpoint that. Of note, by the way, David Fry isn't going to be back until midsummer. That was another guy for them who kind of broke out. So you're losing him too. But Will,
Yep.
like you replace Josh Naylor with Santana, who they love him there. There's no question about that. And then Manzardo there as well. Like maybe we'll see what happens there. But like, how do you look at that and say, all right, is this going to be able to fill the void he left? Because we know Naylor is like he was a big energy guy, brought a lot of power, was really good for them last year.
Last year, Naylor batted 243 with 108 RBIs and a 776 OPS. And Santana batted 238 but 71 RBIs and a 748 OPS. Numbers aren't terribly off, but it's the RBIs that should be noticeable because that's what's going to be key for a team that does not score a lot of runs in general. And the projections based on Zips going into this year are similar. The main difference is that the average drop off between Naylor and Santana is much greater. It has Naylor at a 264 average and a 219 average for Santana, but still roughly a 30 RBI difference. I don't think they did enough. And even if Manzardo does take a little bit of a step forward, I don't think he's going to be enough, he and Santana at least, to fill the gaps between who they've lost in Naylor and Jimenez, and with Fry being absent for however long he is. And you need offense to win the postseason. Pitching will help you win the 162 game season, but the offense will get you to the World Series.
So yeah, and I think what you kind of have right is you take out Naylor, so that's a big hit to the offense. Jimenez comes out as well, who doesn't impact the offense as much, but he was a great defensive second baseman for them. So, like John, do you kind of were talking about like how they really didn't get better. So I guess in your sense, the negatives outweigh the positives in this case, and it's like in your opinion, I guess, should they just have done more on the offensive side? Like they added pitching depth, but Carlos Santana really the only notable addition to offense. And does he really move the needle for you or keep
Oh,
the
heck
team where
no.
they're at?
Heck no, he does not move the needle for me. Uh, Look, I think Carlos Santana, I think his best years are behind him. At going to be 39. Uh, it's hard to say that he moves the needle for anyone, honestly. I think he was brought in to really foster in Bo Naylor as the catcher of the future for them and going forward. Um, so the I go back to this consistency when it comes to the Guardians, and what I'm seeing right now is a lot of up and down for their lineup in terms of batting average. So, I mean, you start with Stephen Kwan with their projections, with the Zips projections, starting off with 283. Then you go down 247 with Manzardo, 270 with Ramirez, Santana 219, 243 with Lane Thomas, 278 with Will Brennan, 232 with Brito, Naylor 220, and then 241 of I'm going to mispronounce his last name. So I'm going to
Rocchio.
say Rocchio. Thank you. I
You
apologize.
mispronounce it. It's Rocchio. No.
I was gonna say Rochio. Anyway, the point is like that is literally up and down, up and down, up and down, and you can't have that. You need to be consistent, and that was the staple that this team had through their successful period last year. Right now, you don't have that. So what are you going to do? How do you make improvements? How do you prove essentially you have to prove people wrong again. I mean, we
Yeah.
picked them, if I remember correctly, last year we all had the same sentiment. They are old. Well, now I'm gonna say they're inconsistent. So
Yeah, they were.
They have no offense.
I think we all picked them fourth, right? Like it was.
I think I had them third. I think
I think I had
it
them
was
third.
either
I don't
fourth or
remember.
third. I forget where I put the Tigers is the problem. No,
Yeah.
I don't
might have
remember
put them
what I
ahead of
had
the
for
Royals,
breakfast.
actually.
Do you want me to remember last year?
I know we put them above the White Sox. I can tell you that. But I had them fourth.
Really?
You must be smart.
That eliminates one of the places they could have been.
I know we all picked the Twins to win that division until proven otherwise. We were proved otherwise.
I picked the Tigers, but it's okay. So yeah, I
This
think
lineup
that
sucks.
I mean it's not great, and then you're relying on a guy in Brito who's coming in. He hasn't played in the majors in his career. Now again, Jimenez, you're not losing too much offensively. But is he going to be better than Brito? We'll have to see. It seems like
Jimenez has also had points in his career where he's been able to get his average up a little bit too, and at least be a little bit clutch. So I mean, he may not be the flashy offensive guy, but he could be productive.
it seems like looking at his numbers, again, he's never played in the MLB, but Brito last year hit 21 home runs and had a 256 average. I was gonna say he almost seemed like kind of like a Jimenez build where he was more of a contact guy, but that 21 homers suggests something. The year before he had 14 through triple and double A, so we'll see. I don't. I gotta be honest. I'm not really up to date on my you know Cleveland Guardians depth second baseman, so I really can't tell you what he's going to produce. But you really look at that offense and you have a lot of questions. That is basically the bottom line. So it's going to be the case of can their pitching be as good as it was last year and carry them? You look at their starting rotation, of course, as we said, John Means, who got acquired or came over from Baltimore, and then Shane Bieber are going to be out. So you still have a lot of great options. Tanner Bybee, Ben Lively, Gavin Williams, Luis Ortiz, Tristan McKenzie. Like, I think that's still an okay enough rotation, but is it an okay enough rotation for them to carry this offense along with the bullpen as well? Like to carry this offense? Will, I'll pose that question to you first.
So I mean, their bullpen was like the greatest thing on the face of the planet last year. Sorry, Dodgers, but there is something that was better than you. No. Their pitching will keep them above 500. That's about the only thing I'm thinking. because they were 34 and 32 last year in the second half, regardless of how much of a step back I feel like their offense is taking, I do think their pitching is a little better set up this year, especially with the depth in the starting rotation and the addition to Seawald to go with everything else is there, even though that they traded away Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan,
But
yeah.
I mean, good, like I said, good pitching gets you through the 162 game season. It's always been kind of preached that good pitching will always beat good hitting. And in a large sample size, I do think that is true. And so therefore I feel like there is enough with the offense where they'll probably be around the 500 mark. But I don't think you can expect anything better. And if they want to be better, then somehow the pitching's got to be a lot better than it was last year.
I think you have a lot of guys in that rotation who can be like, I think they have the potential to be like mid to low threes. Like, you're probably going to have more guys in that upper threes range. But again, is that going to be enough to hold them over? And we'll see. Again, Bieber probably comes back in like June, July. So, are they going to be in a spot in the standings where him coming back is going to matter? John is firmly believing that John Means is like not pitching this year, or at least coming back late enough where it's not going to matter. So, yeah, John. I mean, how do you kind of assess this rotation with, without those two guys?
Mid, not even mid, less than mid. Let's be honest. Like their projected ERAs are not good. They're very, very mid at best. So this is going to be a team that's very much reliant on the bullpen, and that's typically not a recipe for success here.
Unless you're the Guardians.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the
yeah,
thing.
but
the one team that break the exception.
If you're relying on your bullpen, that typically means that your starters are, for lack of a better term, shitting the bed. And that means that your offense then has to produce more. We all just said this is an inconsistent offense at best, and this is a terrible offense at really.
It's worst.
At worst, the White Sox.
I wouldn't even say it's
than
worst. I would say it at good. It's a terrible offense. So in reality, you got to look at it. You look at it like this: they are not doing everything right now, and they need to make some moves and need to make something happen. Whether that's in-house or go and get somebody, because their offense is going to have to produce a lot more than what their numbers are showing that they're going to be capable of, and their rotation is going to leave that bullpen out to dry. So when one of your three team pieces, let's say, it is all that's producing and being consistent, that's not that's not going to fare well.
I will advocate this for them. I think, and I was really upset when it happened. When the Pirates traded them Luis Ortiz, I think that is a very, very good signing. Like he started to kind of break out last year. He finished with a 3.2 ERA, which I mean it's good, but you actually kind of like look at his numbers. He was like shut down from like June. Like you look at his June numbers, like earned runs and like games from even like going back to like the beginning of the season. It was toward the end where he started to fall off a little bit. But like most games, he's not giving up more than 2 runs. He's going deep into games. This is of course when he was kind of more of a long relief role for the Pirates and then transitioned into the starter. Like after he became a starter, like you're looking at 1 run let up, 1 run, 1-0, 1-0, 3-1. So like this is like I really like that addition. I was sad to lose him as a Pirates fan. I think for the Pirates, like they feel like they have depth and obviously need offense.
Now
production.
You have Spencer Horowitz because of who you got, and then the immediate trade, like
which I'll see it when I, see him on the field
when he's healthy because he's not.
Yeah, like so, like right now it kind of stinks. And if Horowitz becomes a good player, that's awesome. that'll hurt less. But I really think Luis Ortiz, especially going into the factory that is Cleveland and their pitching, like he's gonna be scary. Like
I don't think
Yeah.
this year he will be. I think next year.
I'm with
Definitely.
Tyler on this one.
you do have to look. I mean, again, this like the middle of last year when he really started becoming a starting pitcher. He was always more of a relief or long relief guy. So does that change? I don't know. But he had 135 innings last year. So
Guardians are not a team
Yeah.
that will that are, I should say they're a team that is comfortable going to the bullpen really early if need be. Now, is that something that we could say is going to happen early in the season in like April and May? Who knows? I don't really care. Because it's the games later in the season that really get you into the playoffs and matter. But I
here
feel
we
like
go again
Ortiz,
with the
I'm ready to strangle you already. So I've already figured out where it matters. Last year I kind of figured it out. It's up to the All-Star break, and then after the All-Star break, like that's who you really see, because those are the teams that you could be amazing in the first half, you suck in the second half, make the playoffs, you're gonna suck. That's that seems to be the trend. Anyway, but point was Ortiz, I feel like will benefit greatly from being on the Guardians and being able to pull him maybe earlier than other teams would be willing, or the slight sense of like he gets into that fifth inning and he gives up a base runner or two, and then suddenly boom, he's taken out, and you got someone in the bullpen to take it from there.
Yeah. I guess to really put a bow tie on this, because I don't necessarily have a lot more on the Guardians, is do they, it's funny because the team in their division, the Tigers, like AJ Hinch has said, like, yeah, like that bullpen stuff was great, but that's not sustainable over 162. Same case for the Guardians. So I don't know, man. Like, what's this team's recipe to like winning again? Because it's not the offense. So like,
It has to be.
it
I
has
mean,
to
if
be.
they want to win a lot, it has to be the offense contributing enough. Last year they were they were middle rankings in about everything offensively, or at least everything that mattered. They were 14th in runs scored, 12th in average, and tied for 17th in OPS. They're probably going to be under the bottom half in baseball this year. It seems like they need to get that to at least where they were last year to think about success. But I mean, against going off kind of what Hinch said, the reason why it's believed, I think, that the other than just bullpen arms staying healthy, and not getting tired late in the season, is just when the postseason showed us when you overexpose bullpens, offenses win.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why in like 162 game season, pitching can win, and in the postseason, offense is what gets you to win. Because in a 162 game season, you can do whatever you want in a 3-game series, and then after that, unless you're facing teams in your division, like you may see them one more time, or you may see them again in like 2 weeks, or you may see them in like 3 months.
Yeah.
And even nowadays within your division, you're just playing them less because you're playing everyone. Thanks a lot, Rob Manfred. But in the postseason, as seen in that like Yankees Guardians series, or even when it was the Tigers and Guardians in the ALDS, you get to game like 3 or 4 and you're using the same guy and you're pulling your pitchers after like 3 innings because it's getting a little dicey, and you've seen everyone that's pitched ahead of them. Then suddenly you're kind of familiar with them, and even the best of the best, like Clase, gets rocked.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be okay pitching wise, where that's not going to be the reason that they don't succeed. It's going to be the offense. And if the offense does good and the pitching is what ended up not working, then bring back Francona. You screwed up.
And look, they're in a very similar spot of
They're in a worse spot.
Yes, but they're gonna have to rely on guys that aren't proven, and I'll just keep saying it. Like there's these miracle teams that find a way, and it seems like they're one of them. I personally, so like I'm starting to really hate Pacoda's
What does
projection.
Pacoda have him at?
So they have him at 81, and
That's comparable to what I think they could do. I'm thinking 81 to 84 right now.
yes, but like when you compare it to like the other teams we've done so far, it's like, okay, like I think I like their lineups better, and I'm like severely disappointed with the Pagoda win total that they had. Like this one, I'm like, I mean, that makes sense. They had 92 wins last year, so this is quite a step back. But it's just like I feel a lot worse about this team, than last year. But I also didn't like them last year, and they made it to the ALCS. So I really don't know.
No. I think Pacoda has exactly what I think they are. Mid.
Mid.
They're mid.
I mean, yeah, they have met 500 team, and we'll see. They're gonna have some no names step up. And no offense to the no names, but they're gonna have to step up this year after their subtractions. I really don't have anything else to add though. I don't think you guys do. So
I almost feel like the young guys are too young and the old guys are too old for this team.
That's kind of a good point. I like
Stephen
that.
Vogt needs to come out of retirement to be the DH. Player manager, baby.
That is all for us here at Big League Breakdowns. This has been episode 9 of Around the League in 30 Days. Next, we head to the Rocky Mountains and the Colorado Rockies for day 10. But that is all for us here at Big League Breakdowns. Follow us on Twitter at BL_breakdowns. Big League Breakdowns everywhere else. Make sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel for more content on the 30-day team previews that we are doing. But that is all for us here. We will see you next time.
Wear your seatbelt.